Hey guys, welcome to my channel where we discuss anything and everything to do with mental health and psychology. This video is the second in a two-part series on how to become a cognitive behavioural therapist within the UK. So the next topic is the experience required to get in, and the minimum experience required to get onto a course is a minimum of 2 years postgraduate experience. So that's 2 years of experience after you've graduated from a undergraduate in psychology. If you have a core profession, that varies because you have a regulatory body, so that's different. So that process is completely different because you're a qualified professional. But if you have done a psychology undergrad, you need a minimum of 2 years of experience before you can apply. And I've got a lot of questions about, oh, I've already got a master's, I've already got experience in this, is that enough? I don't feel like that's enough. I felt the same way, but I felt like, oh, I don't have a master's, how can I get in? Or I'm a band 2 or a band 3, how am I possibly going to get a place? Whereas, well, I got a place, so the minimum, if you've got a master's, that will be a benefit, but you don't need one. 2 years minimum experience. For example, when you're applying for the course, when you're talking about your experiences, it's about the quality of experience. So what did you learn from that? Reflecting on that. How can you apply maybe cognitive behavioural therapy techniques to what you've already done? That doesn't mean implementing interventions technically. It means how can you reflect on what you've done in a elevated manner, if that makes sense. So I'm going to try and word it correctly. So how can you talk about your experiences and in an equal way to how a qualified professional will talk about their experiences? So reflecting in a deeper manner on what's happening or what you've experienced, rather than a very shallow maybe superficial way, if that makes sense. So when I applied, the postgraduate experience I had was a healthcare assistant and occupational therapy assistant. So you have to be able to reflect on that in a deeper manner than just saying, oh, I was a healthcare assistant for this many years, I did observations, I did one-to-ones. You have to actually talk about, okay, what did you do in your one-to-ones? What tools and techniques did you use to help someone manage or regulate their emotions? How did you work in the MDT? And what interventions did the nursing team ask you to carry out? And reflect on it in terms of the underlying processes that are occurring, rather than, oh, I was on one-to-one. So for example, let's say you're on one-to-one with someone who's very distressed. Okay, did you look at why they're distressed? Did you formulate them? Did you listen to handover? Did you implement every discipline that's in almost the team working with the young person? Did you reflect on, okay, what do I know about this young person? What tools and techniques can I use to be able to allow them to communicate, allow them to express themselves, and allow them to manage how they're feeling? If that makes sense. So yeah, so it's not just about the role that you're doing, it's your ability to reflect on the role that you're doing. And it's not just about the role, so it's also about the extent of your experience. So for example, I worked on a range of wards with a range of individuals, a range of disorders, a range of age groups, ethnicities, and there was a lot of diversity in my experience. So I worked in physical health, in mental health, and in mental health I worked with addictions, PTSD, eating disorders, CAMS, adults, basically a range of things. And in physical health I worked in A&E, I worked in frailty, and I also worked in supported living beforehand, which just elevated my knowledge of that experience. So I mostly worked in physical health, I mostly worked in A&E and frailty, but because I had knowledge of other areas and the link between mental health and physical health, that's what experience I had and that's what knowledge I had. But that's not, you don't need experience in everything, you just need the knowledge, a wide-ranging knowledge, if that makes sense, about different areas, and that can elevate your application. It's not only the role you work in, it's your ability to reflect on those roles and your wide range of experience, of wards, a wide range of conditions, a wide age range, diversity, and working more generally in mental and physical health. But the value of physical health is when you can see the link between mental health and physical health. Unless you want to be a physical health therapist, which is a different career path. But what CBT therapists in physical health do is know the link between physical health and mental health, if that makes sense. So the next topic is the hidden costs of doing CBT. And this applies to both funded courses and applies to self-funded courses. So apart from books, which I think is a cost in all courses, there's 4 extra hidden costs, and why I refer to them as hidden costs, they're not revealed until later in the course. Well, I wasn't aware of them when I first applied to the course. I was aware of them once I had started the course. And maybe that's just an impairment in my research and I just didn't look into it as much. But these are some of the requirements, and they are requirements of the course that I was on. And most self-funded courses, these are a requirement. And if they are a requirement for accreditation, I'll just highlight, oh, this is a requirement for accreditation. And I've written them down just so I give you the specific cost of each thing. So yeah, because I don't remember the cost of everything, because what I pay for these things now is different to what they are on the course. So supervision can range to whatever the supervisor asks you to pay them. And I think this is quite justified in that this person is self-employed as a supervisor, so you're paying them for a private service, if that makes sense. So if you don't have a supervisor on your placement, you will need an extra supervisor. And supervision will be provided on the course, but that won't be enough to meet the minimum training standards that are required. So your placement, if your placement doesn't offer one, you will have to look for a private supervisor, if that makes sense. You might find that you can maybe hire your tutors or one of the supervisors that are provided by your course for extra supervision to meet the minimum training standards, if that makes sense. But I don't know how, so the price might range from about £60 for one supervision session, which normally lasts an hour. The highest price that I've come across when I was looking for a supervisor, when I had a private placement, is about £160–180 per hour. So very different price points. I would just look at a wide range of supervisors before I make a decision, and yeah. But what I realised from my research on supervisors is if you hire a supervisor from somewhere in London, the prices will be a lot higher than if you look on the outskirts, and even up north, if you look for supervisors, they will be a little bit cheaper. And they will more lean towards the lower end of the price spectrum, if that makes sense. Whereas the closer you get to central London, the higher the price will be. And that's just competitive of the price ranges in that area. So I would look into that. And yeah, so you can have video supervision sessions. Obviously it's a pandemic. But even before that, video sessions were considered reasonable. Telephone sessions are a bit hit and miss. They might not actually count towards the minimum training standards, although that might change. So I'll look into that for you guys and leave that in my next video when I talk about minimum training standards. But when I was qualifying video, phone call sessions didn't count. So phone sessions didn't count towards your hours. Phone sessions also didn't count towards your supervision hours. And that's 2 of the hours that count towards your minimum training standards. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So your supervision needs to be video or needs to be face-to-face, and that applied even when I did my course during the pandemic, but it might have changed since then. So I'll look into that and put that in a minimum training standards video if you guys want that. Another one is you have to have a BABCP student membership across the 2 years, or the year that you're a student. And after that, you have to continue and maintain your BABCP membership, but the price does increase. So for a student membership, it costs £28 for a year. So each year that you're a student, whether that's 1 year or 2 years, that costs £28, and you have to, that is a requirement, and you have to be a member of BABCP while you're training. And that's something you have to evidence at the end of your training as part of your portfolio, if that makes sense. So supervision and BABCP membership is something that you have to have, and both of them you have to evidence in your portfolio at the end when you're applying for accreditation. Another one is insurance, but this is hit and miss. So some courses, so Bolton didn't really ask for insurance, whereas Buckinghamshire New University, the course I went on to, did actually ask for insurance. So I would actually ask the course that you apply to. So I think this is something that varies between courses. So insurance, the cheapest insurance you can get is through a company called Balance. And this is only the cheapest option if you already have a BABCP membership, which you have to have. And because you have that, you can use their discount on insurance. So you can have Balance insurance. So that's £17.99 for a whole year. And obviously 2 years, you just have to pay that each year. You have to be insured the whole time you're on the course. But again, this varies from course to course. So some courses don't ask for it, some courses do ask for it. So I would ask the course that you're on. The second thing is you actually have to pay for your accreditation. And this doesn't mean you just pay and you're accredited. You actually have to apply for the accreditation process, and you have to pay for your application to be considered. So what applying for accreditation looks like is that you have to submit a portfolio to your course lead, and your course lead marks it. That's something that you either pass or you fail, and that's basically evidencing that you meet the minimum training standards that are required for you to pass the course. So this is actually dependent on you qualifying and passing the course. So you do a portfolio at the end, which either passes or fails, and then your course lead will tell BABCP whether you've passed. If you've passed, your name gets sent to BABCP by your course lead, and then you can start your application process. Your application process costs, you apply, you pay £169, and obviously this might change in the year that you apply, but £169 for your provisional accreditation. Your provisional accreditation lasts a year, and after that year you apply for full accreditation. And what that means is that after that you become a fully accredited therapist, and those are all the hidden costs. So I'm just going to summarize them in writing just so the process is a lot clearer. You have to pay for supervision. That's part of the minimum training standards and something you have to evidence in your portfolio. A BABCP membership, that is part of your portfolio, so you need that. And BABCP, when they are provisionally accrediting you, ask for evidence that you've been a member for the 2 years that you've been, or the year that you've been on the course. Insurance, that depends on the course that you're on, but in my course I had to put that as part of my portfolio. Accreditation, you have to pay for that after you've graduated, so after your portfolio has passed, and that is £169 today. So in a few years that might change, or even a year's time that might change, but right now is £169 for provisional accreditation, and then you're provisionally accredited for a year, and after that you have to apply for full accreditation. It's not something that you can just stay on provisional accreditation because it ends or it expires after a year to 18 months, because you can apply for an extension on your provisional accreditation, but after that it expires and you have to apply for full accreditation, which is £65. And then after that, every year you have to keep applying. Overall, although these were hidden costs, I feel like they were worth being on the course. So you pay approximately 9 to 10,000 for the course. You pay for supervision if your placement don't already provide that, insurance, BABCP membership, and provisional accreditation. You also pay for membership. You continue to pay for membership after you've qualified. So the two things that you're paying for is BABCP membership and your provisional accreditation. A lot of jobs will ask you to be either provisionally accredited or fully accredited as a therapist. The final topic comes from a question that I was asked, and I'll just quickly read that out. It's, did you work at the same time? And if so, did you find it hard to balance a job and being on the course? So I think at the beginning I really did. I really struggled with, and it was really hard to balance university, and I started my placement and a new job at the same time. So it was really hard to balance that. But I think what I learned is that you just really have to be boundaried with time, and you have to actually be okay with not being the best at every job. My schedule was quite hectic, so I had to be very boundaried with, okay, at 2:30 I need to leave work and get to placement, and I calculated it to like literally the exact moment I had to leave till I had to get there, because I was taking trains, and it almost took like an hour and a half between where I worked and where my placement was. I had to be very boundaried, because if I was, let's say, a few minutes too late, then it would mean me missing my train or missing my bus, because I think I took 2 trains and a bus to my placement. So you have to be very boundaried in terms of schedules and timing, because then obviously if you've left 10 minutes late, you miss your bus, and missing your bus means that you missed your train, and then missing one train means that you've missed the next train. And placement worked like I had supervision at 4, a session at 5, 6, 7, and then left at 8. So the service closed at 8, so I had to be very boundaried with my time. So Tuesday worked like I either woke up at 6 or 7 a.m, did some coursework, left for work, and I worked till about 8. And then Wednesdays I ended up, I used to work, and then I ended up doing more placement hours, and most semesters was different, because then I just adjusted my work hours and things like that. I ended up, originally I worked 4 days, and then I ended up working actually 3 days to make room for my extra placement time. And that's just something that you have to do, because you have to work out what your priorities are. Because even in my second year, my sister was getting married and things like that, so I actually really wanted to be there for all those moments, like dress fittings and like looking for dresses, looking for things for the wedding. For example, when we did go for dress fittings, I actually took my laptop with me, and I was doing my coursework while my sister was trying on dresses, and that's just something that you just have to do. I think, because yes, I wish I could have been in the moment and present completely, but I did do my coursework on the way there to the dress fitting place, and I did look at the dresses and stuff like that, but I still did my coursework. So just being very boundaried, and then with every pocket of time that you have, is that, okay, where can I maximise where I can do my coursework, because obviously your coursework you have to do in your own time. So find those pockets of time and try and fit what you can into those pockets, if that makes sense. So if you only have a few hours in the morning, maybe just plan your essay or look for articles and put that together, and then later on you can start writing it up. But at least you've done something to almost prepare you for doing that coursework. So really breaking things up and fitting them into those pockets of time, and then also making time for your other priorities, because I know some people, obviously your priorities might not be the same as mine, and obviously the events that are happening might not be the same, but just fitting them in where you can. So if you say to yourself, okay, Saturdays or Friday evenings are always my family time, then always putting family time there and then working around that. And then with time with friends, okay, where are we meeting? And then, okay, what can I fit around that? So let's say you're meeting on, let's say Sunday. So let's say you're meeting Sunday afternoon for lunch or something like that. Okay, I'm going to wake up at 6 or 7 and start doing some coursework, write stuff up. And then afterwards you can go out with them. And then when you come back, you're probably going to be tired, but at least you've done something for the day. Or even like extending it back. So, okay, we can meet at like 3. So that gives you the whole day to be doing your coursework, and then time to relax in the evening and stay, or even stay out late with them. So it really just depends on your priorities, what you have to balance, because I know some people have kids, some people are married, and like all of those responsibilities as well. I don't have those responsibilities, so my main priorities were my family, my friends, and my career. So trying to balance them in your week, and you have to be very scheduled and organised with, okay, where can I fit those priorities, because that's the only way you can balance everything. And also adjusting your standards and your things you're aiming for, because I know some people can get amazing grades and do amazing at their job, and like, but I think for me, I had the extra pressure saying, oh, I have to be perfect at my job, I have to be perfect at placement, I have to be perfect on my course, get good grades, and I have to be the perfect sister and like daughter and friend, which is just not realistic. Sometimes you're gonna have to cancel plans, sometimes you're gonna have to not meet up or not go to events, but you just have to prioritize the importance of that event to you, and make sure you're not neglecting one, if that makes sense. So it really depends on you, what your priorities are and your scheduling, but you have to be really organised to, I think, balance university, placement and work. But I think because it's so competitive to get onto a course in psychology, especially one that qualifies you into a profession, so CBT, clinical psychology, anything like that, because it's so hard to get onto these courses, it's worth doing. And for those 2 years, you are probably not going to use any of your annual leave for actual annual leave. You're probably going to use your annual leave for coursework, and that's what I did. And that's just because I was like, okay, it's 2 years, just get through the 2 years and then you've qualified. So all my annual leave for the past 2 years that I was on the course, I used to do coursework, and that was just what I felt like I had to do, because especially working part-time, you don't get as much annual leave. So that's just something that I felt like I had to do. Maybe you want to use your annual leave for actual breaks, which that's what annual leave is actually for. So if you want to do that, then go ahead and do it. But my breaks were mostly when I spend time with my friends and my family, and that was my break. Because that's something that I don't have to like, for me, it doesn't take as much energy, if that makes sense. But if I wanted to, sometimes I did use that. Like Friday evening, I would say, okay, I'm gonna have a break, I'm gonna spend time by myself, because you don't always want to be with people. So I would just say, okay, if I do this much now, then I'll spend Friday evening, I'll watch Netflix, I'll like, you know, do something that's nice and relaxing for me. Be boundaried, prioritize your priorities, be scheduled, and balance everything. Don't neglect any areas of your life. One might have to take a back seat compared to others, depending on, like, let's say you have lots of coursework or lots of deadlines to do, then one might need to take a back seat, but don't neglect them for too long. because then you'll end up missing out on experiences. So hopefully you found this video useful and the information helps you on your journey to finding a career in psychology.